when you know that you can change your physiology and you realize that you are in a stress response, whether that be fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, and fawn is associated with, self-abandonment. It's, putting other people before you to the detriment of yourself, which many people fall into that category, especially if you're an empath or, you're working in, supporting other people and supporting roles. You can often, give your energy to others to the point where it's, draining you of your own vital life force and you're not taking care of yourself. So understanding your stress response is key, because once you understand that you are in a stress response and you have the power to take yourself out of a stress response, then you can move out of survival and into being a creator, because many of us are either living in a stress response and survival, or we're living as a creator. They don't go both hand in hand. You have to be able to move out of that stress response first and foremost. And you have to know that you are in a stress response, because many of us just don't. We don't have the awareness. We might have the awareness that we feel triggered, that we feel, our patience is short, we're more reactive, or whatever the case might be, but we haven't yet identified that we are in a stress response. We haven't identified that we're dysregulated, we're not grounded, we're not centered. Our energy is outpouring to other people and circumstances and places, and we don't feel whole within. So that is key for sure.
Yeah, we're so good at bullshitting ourselves, you know? Like, if we don't brush our teeth for 5 or 6 days at a time, everyone else around us will know, but it's going to become normal to us. We're not going to even notice. So it's like, oftentimes we're just not aware of what our stress responses are. We're just living in this constipated reality that we've created for ourselves, and we're unaware of it. And that's why it's so needed, like breath work and these different tools that we've been speaking to allow you to create distance from you and your habitual compulsive thought and emotion, because that is what's on autopilot right now. And for you to break from that, you need to take a deviation from what you've been doing to create that, to continue to have momentum in your life. So
yeah, that's key. Yeah, and so often you see it everywhere. People are living in a stress response. They're so reactive, they don't even realize that they're in a stress response. They just believe that they're reacting to life's circumstances. But the trigger is not always, the trigger of why that person is reacting the way they are. It might be the initial trigger, but beyond that, beneath that, there is a core wound that's wanting to come up, to be felt, to be processed, to be healed. There's unexpressed emotion and energy behind that. And when people can start to do the work to look at the timeline, trace things back. Okay, I'm in a stress response. Why am I feeling like this? Okay, there's this initial trigger. Is this initial trigger, does it have a deeper core wound of what's really going on for me? And being self-reflective, that's doing inner work, and that is so powerful, because that's you taking radical responsibility for the way you show up in every moment, and not, just snapping on people, or, not just being that person that's out in the world and just reacting so harshly and negatively to what's going on, because most people are projecting their own pain, their own insecurities, their own fears, their own unprocessed emotions onto other people. And the moment you realize that, you don't have to take things personally. It's not a reflection of you. You might have triggered that person with something that you've said, or a certain way of being, or the way you look. But ultimately, there's work to do for that person. Sure, you get to show up and take responsibility for your actions, for your part in that, if it's aligned to do so. But, there's a deeper story, there's a deeper wound playing out for most people, but they just don't realize that in the moment. They get lost in that stress response. They get lost in that initial reaction to the surface layer of what's going on.